Matt Groening has more than left his mark on primetime animation, creating 2 shows that have lasted decades, with mixed results. There would be an animated crossover in The Simpsons' 26th season, but before then, these characters met under very different circumstances. Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, and I'm taking issue with the Futurama/Simpsons Infinitely Secret crossover crisis, where the show that won't die collides with the show that won't stay dead. Let's begin with issue number 1 and see if these comics make us want to turn the page or turn our heads. First off, the subtitle, really nice homage to the various event comics from Marvel and DC. The cover is a nice collection of these 2 franchises, which teases/spoils what to expect. Brains zapping Fry and Leela with their essences flying into a comic book, Maggie ticked off at Marge feeding Nibbler, and Homer about to throw hands with Bender. You think they're fighting over which season of the other show started their respective decline in quality? First page is a letter from editor Bill Morrison about the excitement of this project, the fun of combining 2 things you love, like when Marvel and DC first crossed over Spider-Man and Superman, though there is some difficulty in the premise since Futurama takes place in a universe 1 millennium in the future, and wherein The Simpsons is a work of fiction with truckloads of merchandise. Nevertheless, writer Ian Boothby found a way. So, joined by artists James Lloyd, Steve Steer Jr., Rick Reese, and Art Villanueva, we begin in Springfield with Kent Brockman appropriately saying, "Let's get started. First order of business, where do we bury this dead body?" No, it's actually a mayoral debate, with incumbent Joe Quimby speaking first about standing for lower taxes, jobs, and how precious a resource children are. This couldn't be more boring if it was on PBS. Careful, Homer. Remember what happened the last time you crossed PBS?
Give us the money!
Elmo knows where you live!
Quimby's opponent is more the crowd favorite, The Simpsons' pet cat, Snowball 2, who wins over the audience and assures their votes by playing with yarn. Not to be outdone, Diamond Joe Quimby attempts to copy the feline's antics with a much bigger yarn ball, but it proves so heavy he falls off the stage and onto several kids. The children!
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
Holy misdirect, Batman! This is actually happening in a comic book Philip J. Fry is reading on the Planet Express ship, which his buddy Bender thinks is broken because the pictures aren't moving, this being the future and all. So he tries the old-fashioned method of getting stubborn technology to work, by hitting it, and slugs Fry instead. For those curious, "No, I didn't mean to punch that guy, I was just trying to get the toaster to work," is not a viable defense that will hold up in court. Don't ask me how I know. I said don't ask! After waking up, Fry makes it clear he does not like the idea of transporting the universe's largest comic collection back to Earth, so it can be forever sealed in liquid diamond. Sure, a collectible comic guide says that's what makes them collectible, but it means that no one will be able to read them again. Bender takes a closer look at the comic Fry was reading, a reprint of a Simpsons comic from the early 21st century, and the only non-pornographic series in publication. Though Leela notes that Bongo only prints them as a tax write-off, while their real money is made by making child-specific munitions, called funitions. When you really like Christopher Titus's song Arm the Children, but completely missed the satire. They arrive at the living planet Nerdanus 12,
Hey, phrase it!
who of course looks like a stereotypical nerd, but I have to give credit to the artist's creativity with the ring forming the glasses. The ship heads for the moon where the comics are kept, as well as the heads of various comic book creators, like Sergio Aragonés, who made a guest appearance on Futurama during their Comedy Central run, Scott McCloud, Will Eisner, Dan DiCarlo, Jack the King Kirby, and it just wouldn't be a cameo without, of course, Stan Lee, all perched on gold structures and looking pretty chill about being collectibles themselves. As the crew begin lugging long boxes into the ship, they're hit with a strange energy, leading Bender and Leela to fall over with dumb looks on their faces. Unaffected, Fry sees who attacked them. The Brain Spawn, big floaty space brains who first appeared in the episode The Day the Earth Stood Stupid. They want to possess all knowledge in the universe, not unlike some versions of DC's Brainiac, but seek to destroy all life to prevent new information from being created. Fry was a major factor in their downfall, twice, because he lacks the Delta brainwave, possessed by all other sentient beings, including robots, thus he is immune to their intelligence-sapping attacks. Intelligence-sapping attacks could have been a viable in-universe excuse for the Flashpoint reboot, and a lot of what came after. How does a human being fight against these beings with 5K IQs? By throwing stuff at them, of course, making them lose their concentration, and returning Leela and Bender to normal. The brains go with Plan B, trapping their minds inside a book, even though they only have comics at hand. Loeb.
Do they count as literature?
Not according to any grade school teacher in history, but they'll have to do! And that's why I never got my doctorate.
It's a conspiracy, I tells ya!
They're transported into an old ad that was in a lot of comics way back when, offering a quick and easy muscle-building routine to turn scrawny pushovers into heroes of the beach fighting off bullies. The role of such a pipsqueak is of course Fry, and when he goes from wimp to strongman, he gives the brain that trapped them there what for. This releases the trio, and thwarts the brain's plans to keep them in literature until their bodies starve. Bender finds a gun to shoot them with, but he's informed it's a spoiler ray, once used to force media figures to reveal plots for their various entertainment projects. Rather cleverly, the robot uses it on the brains anyway, to get them to reveal their intentions. Thoughts from others caused them great pain, so they created a false collector's market to trick people into stealing comics in liquid diamond so they could never be read again. Except for the comics written by James Tynion IV. Those never inspired much thought anyway. If successful, they'll move on to books, movies, and other art forms, leaving Earth's IQ low enough for them to invade and destroy. We get a "you and what army" bit, where the answer is lots and lots of other brain spawn. And Leela's tank top suddenly has more cloth, so it has an actual collar to tug at. Weird. Fry says the rest of Planet Express could still defeat them, so after about an hour, the rest of the crew has been brought in. I guess one of the brains flying the ship to kidnap them. And it must have also mentioned that Fry vouched for them, because Hermes and Amy are not happy with the delivery boy. After Scruffy, the janitor, Nibbler exits the ship, and being sworn enemies, he and the brain spawn recognize each other, and the little guy reveals he can speak, not simply being Leela's pet. While everyone else is shocked by this, she just finds it another one of his adorable traits. Nibbler has put up with a lot playing the domesticated companion, but he does draw the line at Leela calling herself a pet parent. The brains are about to combine their power so they can send the entire crew's minds into the nearest comic, but Fry's confident they'll just kick their butts in whatever periodical they wind up in and free themselves like last time. This actually inspires an idea in one of the brains, to send them in without one of their own going along, which would trap the crew there forever. And salt on the wound for our protagonists is that none of these super smart gobs of neurons ever thought of that in thousands of years.
Moron!
The crew were all transported inside an original copy of the Simpsons story Fry was reading earlier, right in the middle of the crowd attending the debate. Nibbler senses that while they're confused and suffering some memory loss, no brain spawn joining them means they aren't made stupid. In seconds, he exposits to them telepathically how his race are older than time and fight to stop the brain's evil plans. Fry is immune, but Nibbler is still working to keep everyone else's memories intact and safe from being absorbed into the comic, while also trying to return them to their bodies. He needs to avoid any kind of distraction, and for some reason backs up into the crowd of children as Quimby and his yarn fall on them. Why was he backing up, you ask? Why not just stay with the group and remain carried by Leela, who is already enamored by him and his revelations? So the story can happen, I suppose. With the space critter dazed, Fry tells the others to focus on staying together. So of course they've dispersed and are nowhere to be found. With the brains having successfully sealed the comic in diamond, preventing Nibbler's mental powers from freeing them, it looks like there's not even an iota of hope they'll escape. There is false hope, though, so they've got that going for them. With the crew having gotten full-blown amnesia by now, they'll likely gravitate to the main characters of the story. So while Nibbler continues to try breaking the barrier, Fry will use his Simpsons know-how to track down his friends. Bender is wandering around, not remembering a thing and reeking of booze, blaming alcohol for his current state. He declares he'll never drink again, and to celebrate his new sobriety, he goes into Moe's bar and passes himself off as the new Duff Beer mascot for free drinks. "Gimme a brew and keep 'em coming, meatbag!"
Aw, that's what my ma used to call me.
Delusional denial like that is how Moe saves a fortune on therapy. I'm not saying it's a good idea, only a frugal one. The robot's threatening yet endearing nature charms Lenny and Carl, but not Homer, who exits the men's room after a mishap with the bidet. Side note, Moe's seems like the last place you'd see, want, or trust a bidet. But moving on. Springfield Fats doesn't like Bender sitting on his stool, so claimed with the gold-plated plaque, but the bot ain't moving. Except for the fact that he clearly moved to confirm the existence of the plaque, but that's neither here nor there. It looks like there's about to be a fight, but after one panel and 15 heavy drinking minutes later, they're best buddies. Meanwhile, Scruffy becomes Springfield Elementary's new custodial assistant under groundskeeper Willie, right before Principal Skinner spots Fry spying nearby.
Hey, you in the bushes!
What are you talking about? He looks nothing like Moe Sislak. A jewel-encrusted no prize to anyone that gets that deep-cut reference. Fry had fortunately memorized the town's layout from playing Simpsons video games, which helped him track down at least one of the crew. But with the threat of police being called on him, he goes with Skinner's assumption that he's the new substitute teacher, sitting in for Miss Krabappel, who's sick after eating undercooked steamed hams. I imagine this nod was more enjoyable before that meme became so prolific. Maybe that's just me. Anyway, things seem to be looking up now that Fry has access to Bart Simpson, one of the main characters, who's congratulated by his classmates for pranking the sub with a whoopee cushion, even though he didn't and Fry actually cut one.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
Outside, an amnesiac Leela has hidden her large single eye and shielded it from the bright colors after taking sunglasses from a guy that made a pass at her. And with those star effects, either he can't stand the sunlight or she punched him in the face. Either way, Roy should have known better and not be so flirtatious. I think living with two sexy ladies made him too complacent. Lisa's being bullied by Jessica Lovejoy and Francine, shoved in the mud and relieved of her lunch. Leela helps her up, asking why she let them push her around, and the girl is understandably offended, like she really let them do it. She thinks the purple-haired woman is the new guidance counselor, the type that doesn't really do anything but talk. Which, yeah, it's kind of their job, talk things out. I thought Lisa was the smart one. In any case, Leela asks the bullies to apologize and give back her food. And I guess to emphasize how lax Springfield Elementary can be, Jessica's just brazenly smoking out in the open. Anyway, they refuse, so the Cyclops tosses one into a tree and sends the other one spinning on the merry-go-round.
Now that's counseling.
Technically, it's aggravated assault on a couple minors, but hey, details. Not that I mind bullies getting their comeuppance, but even so, I feel like Lisa wouldn't exactly approve of an adult getting aggressive with students. Not that she's a strict pacifist necessarily, but often choosing something other than violence as a first resort, like perhaps a formal punishment in accordance with the rules. Moving on, both Hermes and Zoidberg have aimlessly wandered into the nuclear plant, not knowing who they are. Maybe best friends, as they have themselves a good cry hug.
But you still have Zoidberg. You all still have Zoidberg.
Mr. Burns spots the strangers on security cameras, Smithers suggesting that the orange one could be a mutated employee with heavily altered DNA. Zoidberg is clearly red. Get your eyes checked, Waylon. You probably need a new prescription. Concerned about being sued, Monty invites the two to the country club for dinner, which leads to Smithers becoming rather taken with how efficient Hermes is at calculating the best time to eat to improve rest. Back at the school with class letting out, Fry wants a word with Bart. Not over the pranks he pulled off panel, or to relate to him so he'll change his ways, or why he changed shirts in between pages, but to explain that he's from the year 3002, trapped in a Simpsons comic by space brains, and looking for his oddball friends, a lobster man, a one-eyed woman, and a robot. Wow, he references Zoidberg instead of Professor Farnsworth, his blood relative, or Amy, with whom he had a romantic relationship. That's gotta sting. That story's definitely new to Bart, but he's not buying it, leaving and telling Willie the school is empty so he can chain the front door shut, with Fry still inside. Maybe the groundskeepers would hear him call for help if they weren't arguing unification versus quantum universe theories. Professor Farnsworth nearly gets run over by ignoring the crosswalk signal, and while his memory is kaput, he has the intelligence and compulsion to improve on the device, using some nearby garbage to create a hologram of a woman in a bikini that directs traffic. And because it is so attractive looking, it results in a couple crashes, probably what calls nearby Nibbler's attention, seeing Farnsworth and figuring he could help find a way to crack the barrier trapping them. Nibbler is still where he was before, in front of the Jebediah Springfield statue. So either the professor didn't get far and Nibbler and Fry just didn't see him, or the old dude circled back. In any event, Nibbler's got 3 eyes. How'd he miss him? He's got other problems anyway. Marge spots him, apparently the first civilian to do so, and is aghast by his odd appearance. The alien uses simple hypnosis, so she sees him as a cute baby, which just makes things worse, as she figures someone abandoned their child. She picks him up and feeds him from one of Maggie's spare bottles, intending on taking him home.
Big mistake! Big!
To top it all off, lactose happens to be his species' one weakness, causing Nibbler's mind to fritz out, his intellect to fade, and leading him to act like a baby. Naturally, Maggie hasn't been liking one bit of this. Careful, Nibbler, she is canonically a force to be reckoned with. Chief Wiggum and his officers are investigating the car crashes, which Farnsworth admits to, mentioning the hologram, as well as being able to make the squad car run on ultraviolet light. The comic ends with the cops dragging him away to the local retirement home, and one of the brain spawn breaking the fourth wall, telling the reader that yes, the Planet Express crew are truly, totally boned. Or are they? If so, part 2 is going to be real short. Tune in next week for the epic conclusion of both this story and this year of the crossover. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.